pretty good. We had a pretty, hey, you just do the headlight cards and we were in the light shows.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody goes, she said. I'll let Alex make this decision. Some of them, we had some that didn't return our calls. He emailed me, but it rejected their service. So he had to contact us. We got seven, we carried set two positions. We got Robert, so we had seven. I don't even discuss. And she made it. But she's going to get a.
So Wyatt, how are you doing, Jeff? Good to see you.
He didn't come to our way. Bless you, bless you.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. I have 5:30, so I'll call the meeting to order first. Before the city council meeting, we have a public hearings this evening, 4 of them. So if you're here for the city council meeting, you're at the right place. Sit tight. We will be there shortly. But first, let's go through our public hearings. Beginning with public hearing number 1, public hearing on resolution number 2502, a resolution to annex and approve a plan of services for a portion of right-of-way along Greens Mill Road, with also a .07 acre portion of tax map 51, parcel 34.03, located off Greens Mill Road into the city of Columbia, Tennessee, Ward 5. Anyone in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 1? Seeing none, anyone on the council wish to be heard on public hearing number 1? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison, Mr. Huffman, Mr. Marshall, Ms. Seacrest, Vice Mayor McBroom, Mayor Mulder.
Aye. Public hearing number 1 is now closed. Next, item 2, public hearing on ordinance number 4536, an ordinance amending ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee, by repealing Article 4 and replacing such article with new Article 4, building lot and building site standards citywide. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? All right, come on up. Ms. Stevenson, if you'll identify yourself and give us your address, you'll have the floor for 3 minutes on public hearing number 2.
Good evening, first of all. Let me pull this down. I'm going to propose a compromise, but I'll probably do that before you vote on the ordinance. But what I wanted to share with you was that I was going to ask that CD3L and CD2 be kept as a compromise, be kept as the non-permitted status that that exists right now, and that you amend the proposal for the short-term rentals section of Ordinance 4536 and maintain the not permitted status for CD2 and CD3L. This still allows the other 6 zoning districts where short-term rentals would be able to move forward under multifamily or mixed use or other zonings. I just wanted to see if we could keep CD2 and CD3L as not permitted, which is what they are right now. The rural character district, which is C2, is described as large lot, semi-rural estates, open spaces, and legacy agriculture operations in low-density, single-family detached residential areas. CD2 is appropriate district for rural transition in hillsides and natural space for future land use character areas. And CD3L is neighborhood large lot character districts consisting primarily of low-density, single-family detached residential areas in which the housing is the predominant building type. So I'll speak a little bit later on the rest of that, but I just thought I would preface with this first and then speak to you later before you vote on the ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Anyone else in the audience this evening wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? One more. Come on up.
Mayors, council members, my name is David Gephardt. I'm at 4005 Trotwood Avenue. I've noticed that in the proposed changes to the zoning relating to short-term rentals, it includes a prohibition on events. And it's a very, very broad prohibition. I'm not entirely sure this is what is intended or what is desired. I, of course, understand objecting to, say, loud parties or things like that, but under this definition that I'm reading, it would prevent, seems like, events of all types. Now, I am here representing Magnolia Acres on Trotwood Avenue. It's the old Lusk Estate. To give you an idea of some of the events that we've hosted in the past that I believe are beneficial to the community of Columbia. For example, there is a Christian band called Need to Breathe that wrote and recorded their most recent album there. The estate featured prominently on their album cover, and they, I think any type of creative event like that finds a home in Columbia is a benefit. Kelsey Ballerini did a Shape magazine cover shoot there. I think photography and filming is beneficial. Reba McEntire filmed part of her Christmas movie, Christmas in Tune there, in fact, a large portion. There have been photo shoots for clothing companies, sunglass companies, all sorts of things that I think bring, positive publicity to Columbia that is free. In addition, there's many, many events that, say, local Columbia residents have used Magnolia Acres for, like the Elia Day Spa has hosted more than one women's retreats, including, cooking classes and, different spa services and things like that. There have been, family reunions that have had barbecues and, their kids playing at the pool, things like that. There's been baby showers. There have been photographers who've rented it for family photo shoots. It's been, Thanksgiving dinner, several individuals and families have rented it for that. We've hosted charity events, including a group called Aerial Recovery that does their training there annually. And I would say that would classify as an event that would be prohibited by this provision. Now, again, to repeat, I think there's perfectly adequate justification for wanting to ban loud parties and things like that. But this language in the proposed changes bans everything, including, say, a backyard barbecue or something like that for a family reunion. So I don't think that the shotgun approach is necessarily the best for the community of Columbia. It's certainly not the best for our property. As far as I can tell from my review and my attorney's review, this type of restriction is unprecedented in the state of Tennessee. Even Nashville doesn't have a restriction like this. Again, I think it would be foolish as a practical matter, but also I think it would invite litigation just because of its unprecedented nature. It prohibits something that, you know, is otherwise allowed in that zoning area. You know, a residential use, I'm not sure is a useful prohibition.
All right, Mr. Gephardt, that's your 3 minutes. Thank you very much for being here this evening.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
So moved.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Huffman? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Sechrist? Vice Mayor McBroom? Aye. Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 2 is closed. Next, item 3, public hearing on ordinance number 4537, an ordinance amending development services filing fee schedule for the city of Columbia, Tennessee. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number 3? Seeing none, anyone on the council wish to be heard on public hearing number 3? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 3.
So moved.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Huffman? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Sechrist? Vice Mayor McBroom? Aye. Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 3 is closed. Next and final public hearing on ordinance 4538, an ordinance amending ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee regarding definitions in Article 9 by repealing such article and replacing it with a new Article 9 definitions section. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number 4? Seeing none, anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 4? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 4.
So moved.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Huffman? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Sechrist? Vice Mayor McBroom? Aye. Mayor Mulder?
Aye. Public hearing number 4 is closed. Now we'll like to transition into our regular city council meeting for January 9th, 2025, our first council meeting of the year. We'd like to welcome all of you who are here in the audience this evening and those who may be watching on our live stream or after the fact. We're glad you chose to tune in and join us for tonight's meeting. I would like to ask Mr. Jablonski to please call the roll.
Ms. Hardison? Mr. Huffman? Here. Mr. Marshall? Here. Ms. Sechrist? Here. Vice Mayor McBroom? Here. Mayor Mulder?
Here. Let the record reflect all members of council are present. Next, I would like to call up Mr. Chris Caldwell of First Cumberland Presbyterian Church to provide tonight's invocation and ask everyone to please stand as you are able and to please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which the Vice Mayor will lead us in this evening.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day, for the new year. Thank you for the holidays that we enjoyed. And tonight we come to you praising your name. You are good and your mercy endures forever. And tonight we ask for your wisdom and guidance and knowledge and insight for all these men and women who have given of their time to be here to do the business of this city. We acknowledge the works of President Carter as our nation is seeing a day of mourning today. We ask that you put the fires out in California, that you would bless and protect us in the snow and ice and whatever it brings. We ask that you would carry us home safely tonight. Thank you for all that you do in our lives and in our city and for the protection and the freedoms that we have in this country. And we just give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Turn and face the room, back of the room, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. That takes us to section 4, approval of agenda.
Move to approve.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that matter? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison, Mr. Huffman, Mr. Marshall, Ms. Seacrest, Vice Mayor McBroom, Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that section is approved. Next, under presentations, we don't have anything listed under presentations, but I've asked the city manager if we could get a briefing from the Director of Public Works regarding the upcoming winter weather event. I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of activity taking place, and so, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Jeff, if you would come forward. As a reminder to the council members, if you would cut your mics on this evening or whenever you're speaking.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. It looks like they've dialed back the forecast slightly on the snowfall totals. Hope that's accurate, and it's 3 to 4 inches and not 6 to 7 inches. But we're spent the day and about half of yesterday pre-treating streets, and we've got at least 2 passes on every main thoroughfare or collector, and most of the residential streets and neighborhoods have had a single pass. So we're ready to go at it in the morning at 5 a.m. and with hopes of trying to stay ahead of it. So that's our plan.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Dwyer, and please express our thanks to everyone at the department over the next 24 to 48 hours who are going to be working around the clock to get the streets back in working order for folks to travel. And I know City Hall is closed tomorrow, as is the county government and also the school system. So expect a lot of closures, but also can expect that our Public Works Department will be out there in full force helping keep us safe. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on now to organizational business, beginning with 6.1, approve the minutes of the December 12, 2024 City Council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison,
Aye.
Mr. Huffman,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall, Ms. Seacrest,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye, item 6.1 is approved. Next item, 6.2, approve the retirement benefits for Roger Howell, maintenance worker, wastewater department, and presentation of a retirement plaque by Mayor Mulder.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison,
Aye.
Mr. Huffman,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom,
Aye.
Mayor Mulder.
Aye, that item is approved. I'd now like to invite City Council to join me in the well with Mr. Howell, and looks like we have some family members who may be present as well, along with Mr. Boshiers, please. You get to stand up front. It's a family affair. I like it. All right. Well, Roger, you got a whole crew here with you.
Everybody.
I like it, especially when you bring down the average age a little bit with having these young ones. Well, we have this plaque that we're proud to give you, Roger. Retirement recognition presented to Roger Howell, January 24, 2025. This award is presented in appreciation of 23 years of service, dedicated service to the City of Columbia. Your loyalty, friendship, and professionalism will long be remembered. City of Columbia Mayor and City Council. Roger, thank you very much for your service. All right, we're going to take a quick picture, Roger.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna give you the last word, but Donnie, where'd you go?
Yes, I'm right here.
We'll give you the next to last word.
All right, thank you. Well, Roger's been with the city 23 years. He's been with us just almost a year and a half. And I'll just have to tell you, he's been a huge asset to our department. Coming in, new, fresh face, looking at things differently. He has really stepped up the maintenance portion of our department even higher than they were before. Roger's the type of guy that if you ask him to do something, he does it. When he's through, he asks you if you need anything else. So he's been a huge asset to our department. And I guess He's gonna be off a couple of weeks, but he's gonna come back and help us some more. So, anyway, that's,
Glutton for punishment.
I'm proud of that. That's all I got, buddy.
All right. Yeah, when I came in 2001, took me, first interview I had, they looked at me and said, you're overqualified. And I was applying for Parks and Rec. I said, I'm overqualified. They said, yes. I said, what does the job pertain to exactly? And they said, well, it's mowing, trimming, keeping parks up, keeping trash picked up. And I said, okay, so I'm overqualified. And they said, yes, sir. I said, can I have that in writing? They said, in writing? I said, yeah, because when my wife asked me to go mow the yard, I'm going to say, I'm overqualified. So that didn't work too good. I still wound up mowing the yard. But no, it's been great. I mean, like I said, I started in parks and was there for about 20 years and 21 years and had a blast there. And my son, he works at wastewater and kind of wanted to finish up where he would be. And it's been fun. And everybody said, you work at wastewater and it's fun. I said, oh yeah. And it's been a blast. I enjoy working for my director I had in parks. I worked for Donnie. I've just enjoyed every bit of it. And be glad to come back. So that's all I got to say about that.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
Now's when we like to say, it won't be awkward if you would like to leave. You're more than welcome to leave. Thank you for being here this evening. All right. Now we will move to 6.3, approve the retirement benefits for Jason Carpenter, Fire Captain, Columbia Fire and Rescue.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. That is item 6.3. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 6.4, appointment to fill the Ward 5 council member seat vacancy. We do have one individual who has signed up to speak on that, Brian McKelvey. Mr. McKelvey, welcome. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I come today seeking the appointment of Ward 5. I'm the only person that is looking for this position that actually got a vote. I got over 2,100 votes when I ran in August, and I would appreciate your consideration. I talked to many folks in Ward 5, heard their concerns, had town hall meetings in people's neighborhoods and in HOAs, and I think I'm duly qualified for the position after also serving 4 years on the county commission and being heavily involved in the city of Columbia. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, that is item 6.4. That's the only individual that was signed up to speak tonight. I do want to make one point of clarification on this, and this is something that I spoke with the city attorney about earlier. This would be for filling the vacancy, but it would be until the next regularly scheduled general election for the city of Columbia, which will be held in November of 2026. Is that correct, Mr. Hubble?
That's correct.
Okay, so this will be for filling a two-year until the next scheduled election, and then they would run to fill the remaining portion of that term. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. All right, is there a motion on item 6.4? Anyone have a motion? Motion to approve and appoint Brian McKelvey?
Yes.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion on that matter? Any member?
Is this the only one that you're gonna nominate, or is it someone else?
Well, there's been a motion made and properly seconded.
To what? I'm new here, you gotta explain.
I understand. There's been a motion to appoint Brian McKelvey, and it's been duly seconded, so now we're in discussion. Would you like to speak on that, Mr. Huffman?
Well, I mean, my opinion is, he was on the county commission, and I know he spoke about that. But he was elected, his peers did not elect him to be as city commissioner. So, in my opinion, his peers didn't want him here, so why should council vote him in?
All right. Any other members have anything to discuss? Otherwise, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Jablonski, take the vote.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Sechrist?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye. That motion to approve Brian McKelvey to fill the Ward 5 council member seat has been approved, and swearing in will take place at the February council meeting. Congratulations, Mr. McKelvey. Next item, 6.5, confirmation of mayor's reappointment of Thomas Sneed to the Columbia Housing and Redevelopment Corporation for a 5-year term beginning on February 12, 2025 and expiring on February 12, 2030.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that matter? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Sechrist?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Now we'll move to the consent agenda, and these are items that have been deemed non-controversial and not requiring any further debate. I will read through them collectively, and we'll vote on them collectively. If any member of council wishes to remove any item from the consent agenda, if they'll just advise at the conclusion, and we will do so. 7.1, approve disbursements for the month of November 2024 in the amount of $7,238,498.74. 7.2, approve and authorize the execution of an intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with the Interlocal Purchasing System. 7.3, approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Quality Management Services LLC in the amount of $13,500 to include reimbursement of travel expenses to provide planning consulting to the City of Columbia for the strategic planning session. 7.4, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the 2025 letter of agreement between the City of Columbia, Columbia Main Street, and the Tennessee Main Street Program, confirming participation in the Main Street Program and the annual accreditation process with the National Main Street Center. 7.5, approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract between the City of Columbia and Main Street Mentor LLC in the amount of $2,997, a one-time fee for the new Columbia Main Street website. 7.6, acceptance of the railroad and utility ad valorem assessments for the tax year 2024. And 7.7, approved bid award to Cumberland Valley Constructors, Inc. for construction of the Duck River Sewage Pump Station replacement in the amount of $1,713,000. That is your consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.7. Entertain a motion to approve.
Approve. Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Sechrist?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. There being no matters under Section 8 Administration, we'll move on now to Section 9 Resolutions. 9.1, a Resolution 2501 to accept the ownership and maintenance of sewer improvements serving Hillcrest Village, Phase 1A.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Sechrist?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.2, Resolution 2502, a resolution to annex and approve a plan of services for a portion of right-of-way along Greens Mill Road with also a .07 portion of tax map 51, parcel 34.03, located off Greens Mill Road into the City of Columbia, Ward 5.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. 9.2, any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Sechrist?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom? Mayor Mulder?
Aye, 9.2 is approved. Next item, 9.3, resolution number 2503, a resolution to ratify the City of Columbia's application for the 2024 Assistance to the Firefighters Grant, accept the award, and authorize the mayor to execute documents related to accepting and administering the grant project.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.3? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.4. Resolution number 2504, a resolution to accept the ownership and maintenance of sewer improvements serving Quail Run Meadows, Phase 5.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded on that. Any discussion on 9.4? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.5, resolution number 25-05, tax corrections.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded for approval. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.6, resolution number 2506, a resolution approving the facility program fees for the City of Columbia Parks and Recreation Department.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.6? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.7, resolution number 2507, a resolution renaming the Muletown Rec Center to the Columbia Aquatics and Recreation Center.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Have a question on that, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Is aquatic supposed to have an S at the end of it? I heard it wasn't.
Well, we changed it to plural, the fact that there are multiple pools
Okay, thank you.
and a splash pad outside.
That's my question.
Very good question.
You can give credit to Miss Murphy on her English,
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
proper English.
All right, any further discussion or grammatical points to be made? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next item, 9.8, resolution 2508, a resolution approving the purchase of real property located at 1446 Oak Springs Drive, Columbia, Tennessee, map 89, parcel 3901, known as Muletown Rec, soon to be known as Columbia Aquatics and Recreation Center, and all assets associated with the facility, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract to purchase said real and personal property. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Been properly seconded. Any discussion on that matter? I just want to say I know that we've already approved this, but this is more of a formality for purposes of the closing. But I want to again say it publicly for the record how much I appreciate Mac Reagan and his team, and also the finance team for all the work that they've done over the last couple of months and sort of getting us ready for this moment, and then the work that will be done in the weeks and months ahead as we transition this to one of our park assets. Which I think will have a lasting impact on the community both today but also in the future. And so I don't think that this would be such an easy decision if it weren't for the degree and sophistication of our Parks and Rec team, Mac. So I think that should be noted, and pleased to express our gratitude for the team and the work that lies ahead. With that, Mr. Jablonski, take the vote, please.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seegers?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next, section 10, ordinances. First, 10.1, first consideration on ordinance 4536 and ordinance amending ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Columbia by repealing Article 4 and replacing Article 4 with new Article 4, building lot and building site standards. This is citywide, item 10.1.
Yes, sir, this is the ordinance where if you want to discuss short-term rentals.
That's right.
Yes,
Go back.
that's
We
right.
skipped over it
Yes.
last time.
That's right. So this is 10.1. We did have Mr. Gephardt, you spoke on it. Would you like to speak again? You're signed up, so you have the opportunity for 3 minutes if you'd like it.
I won't take 3 minutes, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to finish up my last thought, which was that the prohibition on events, I think, is just too broad. I think tightening it up or perhaps eliminating it and relying on the other prohibitions, noise ordinances, things like that might be appropriate. Also, if you recall my previous comments about expanding the administrative approval of permits to some of the residential character districts, I think is appropriate. I mean, primarily because I think 90% or 85% of the short-term rentals are going to be in those districts anyway. I think you're going to have a compliance issue. I think you're going to have administrative cost issue, and I'm not sure what it's going to gain necessarily for the city. So those are, and also it seemed like constituents' viewpoint was that it ought to be a relatively easy administrative process. So I would urge the council to expand that out and also to remove or modify the provision with regard to events, which seems very, 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 very broad. So those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stevenson, you're signed up and indicated you'd also like to speak again, so come on up. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, Mr. Vice Mayor. As I said, I'm proposing a compromise. Most, if not all, CD3L subdivisions and neighborhoods have covenant restrictions. And the STRs are mostly located in CD3 zoning and would still have many other character districts to locate in. A subdivision creates binding covenants by draft. It's a legal document called a Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions that outlines the rules and limitations for property use within the community and is typically recorded with the county clerk's office. I have a copy of, I live in a CD3L zoning district. I have a copy of our covenants, but as I said, I can name a number of other large lot subdivisions and neighborhoods that have covenants. In our covenant, it says every lot shall be used for single-family residential purposes only. It says that you cannot have commercial purposes on any lot within that subdivision other than an in-home office that is not open to the public. And lastly, it says that these conditions run with the land and shall be binding upon each and every lot of the subdivision and each and every occupant. So Tennessee law on short-term rentals includes requirements for licensing, taxes, and insurance. Short-term rentals, the IRS considers short-term rentals to be non-residential property. The IRS considers short-term rentals to be a type of commercial real estate, which allows them to take advantage of longer depreciation periods. Short-term rentals are considered commercial activity if the property is subject to a restrictive covenant that prohibits commercial activity. And that's exactly the situation we have here. Again, I'm just asking that CD2 and CD3L, that someone make a motion and second to allow CD2 and CD3L to remain non-permitted. Again, because these are larger lot, semi-rural estates, open spaces, legacy agricultural operations, and also for natural space in the future. And CD3L is, again, for larger lot character districts, primarily of low density, single-family detached residential homes and properties. The homes in these, I'm talking about homes that are half acre, 3/4 acre, acre plus, 2 acres and more. So again, I'd appreciate it if you would all consider making a motion and a second and voting to allow just these two districts to remain non-permitted for short-term rentals. They will have an abundance of other character districts to choose from. I'm just asking that these two remain as not permitted for short-term rentals. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stevenson. If we have any questions, we'll let you know. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Stevenson? Seeing none, I have a question for Mr. Keltner. Mr. Massey.
Yes, Paul, if you could come forward, please.
Mr. Kellner, I know that this issue came up a couple times during the Planning Commission discussion, and maybe even come up the other night, but if a HOA or some type of restrictive covenant exists that prohibits short-term rental, isn't it true that covenant restriction or HOA regulation would trump what the city's doing with regard to this short-term rental ordinance?
Yes, sir, it would. It would be on the subdivision to enforce that, but yes, sir, it would supersede this ordinance.
So just because we're going to pass something, or that there's a potential that this is passed, if someone is in an HOA or has a deed restriction that prohibits this, that would still be in effect?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. That was my question for Mr. Keltner. Ms. Hardison?
If currently, the way that it's presented to us, that we do not want to, that we want to prevent events, can you
Yes, ma'am.
kind of explain the rationale why a CD2 would be in the option for it to be permitted? I'm just trying to get an understanding, like with how she explained the larger lot, and then if we're not going to allow private events.
I believe what Ms. Stevenson was requesting was that the CD2 rural character district, and then also your 3L, which is also a rural character district, be excluded from the allowance of allowing short-term rentals in that district. Events is applied to anywhere where short-term rentals are allowed. Short-term rentals are dwellings, and everything with an event, whether it be group assembly or some sort of studio or something along that line, is not a dwelling. It's a commercial business at that point. It's a different use. So this ordinance is only dealing with short-term rentals and how they're used. If that use wants to be changed into an event center, then there's a different building fire code. There's a different use table that you look at in order to do that, but it would not be classified as a dwelling at that time. Maybe the best way I can explain that one.
I have a question. What is considered a short-term rental? 30 days, 60 days, year?
30 days or less, yes, sir.
Vice Mayor, you have a question for
Well, I
Mr.
was going to
Keltner?
see if anybody else had any more questions, and then I was going to voice my opinion. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I mean, I just voiced an opinion what we might want to do.
All right. Looks like you're up.
I'm up. Well, all right. As y'all probably know, I've got a definite opinion about it. Neighborhoods are for neighborhoods. And the way this is reading now, I'm not real comfortable going to BZA to put the pressure on them to have to make these decisions. So in my opinion right now, and I've talking to other constituents, some want it, some don't. We have new council people on the board. I would suggest to send it back to Planning Commission, tell them that we're really not comfortable with the BZA, and can they come up with anything else that could meet their criteria to help solve this problem? That would be my that's what I'm thinking about now. Do I make a motion? Time to make the motion on that, or discuss it, or we want to discuss it and then make a motion?
I think
We need a motion.
make a motion.
We need a motion to discuss.
Okay, well, I make a motion to send it back to Planning Commission to let them come up with an idea to help where we do not have to send it to BZA if it's possible, and to give us more time to think about it, because I've gotten a lot more information. I've talked to our city attorney about it. I've talked to Mr. Keltner about it, and I don't want to vote on something that we might change just to get it down the road. I feel uncomfortable voting yes. We'll pass it as is, but we'll make changes on it later. I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to let Planning Commission, don't undermine them. Let's let them think about it and see if they can help us solve this problem. That's my motion. Take it back to Planning Commission.
I second that.
Second.
All right. So there's been a motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Hardison?
Yes, just to comment off what Vice Mayor was talking about. I'm just trying to get an understanding of why would it go to BZA? I'm just.
Right, Mr. Keltner.
Paul, if you could come back up, please. Address Ms. Hardison's question, please.
Yes, good question there. So during the review, there was a lot of different opinions of how to approach this. And as we did analysis on a lot of different cities inside of Tennessee and out of the state as well, they all handled just a little bit differently. It's very similar to how you did food truck vendors, mobile vending. It's very unique to your community and how you want to regulate that. There was definitely different sides. There were sides that said, no, we don't want it. It brings different people in that we don't know, and it takes housing stock out of our community and things of that nature. And there was other sides that it brings a lot of visitors to our community. It helps address some of the vacant landlord situations that we have in some areas. So during the discussions, there was these two different sides. So I believe the conditional use was the compromise. So it didn't allow it everywhere just unregulated. It allowed it in a lot of places unregulated, and then even more areas that have a conditional use. And that conditional use is just a body that oversees it. If there is compelling evidence that says this is going to be an adverse impact upon the neighbors, and they express that, then you have a board that can then vote on that and say, no, this probably is not a good compatible situation in this area. So that's where it kind of comes from. I wish I'd have printed those maps off for you, and I'll try to do better next time. But we have it set to where you can see what's allowed today versus within the city, and then what would be allowed should this move forward. And it's a striking difference when you look at the two, compare it to each other. But it was that compromise of a little bit more review of those particular situations in certain zones.
So, Mr. Keltner, as I understand it, the BZA under the amended ordinance, or under the ordinance that's presented tonight, not the amended ordinance, but well, it is the amended ordinance. It's amending the current ordinance. But what we have tonight would say that there are certain character districts that would be entitled to it by coming in and paying a fee and processing, but then there are others that would have to go to the BZA for the conditional use approval. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So in your mixed use districts where you have commercial with multifamily attached housing, single family detached, in those areas, it can be allowed outright. But when you get into just strictly residential areas, your 2, 3, L, and 3, where you don't see the mixed use, you don't see the commercial, you don't see multifamily types of scenarios, that's where the conditional use comes into play.
So when you looked at this, and I know that we've had this conversation now several times, including I had the opportunity to have it at Planning Commission, but was the BZA the board that was oftentimes the sort of the regulatory clearinghouse in these other cities that we looked at to sort of peer review? Because I mean, I think I hear the vice mayor saying that perhaps one of his concerns is that we're putting a lot of, I don't know if I want to use the word liability, but I mean, the BZA is going to have, quite a task on their hands to review these conditional uses on a case-by-case basis. And if one approval is provided one month and then the next month one approval is not provided, then all of a sudden, do they need to have some type of justifiable reason? Otherwise, the city could find themselves in some potential liability. So I share that concern. Is there a happy medium to where the BZA wouldn't have to be the clearinghouse? I mean, and just thinking out loud, I mean, do you just remove the CD2, 3, and 3L and not have the BZA involved at all in the rest of them, and we have short-term rentals allowed in the remaining uses?
Yes, sir. I think if you want to have a conditional use provision, then it has to come to the Board of Zoning Appeals because they're the ones with the authority over conditional uses. And it is very similar to how we see other cities. They don't have quite as many zones that would go with that conditional use permit process, but for the zones they do allow that. The Board of Zoning Appeals is the body that would review that.
So that's why the BZA is involved, because it's the conditional use that inherently has them involved.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, also tonight, we've heard Ms. Stevens' recommendation of what we can and can't do. Also, in talking to the people in in town, I've heard, well, let's just limit it to a certain amount of distance, which we talked before, from the downtown, from the courthouse, a certain amount of distance around that area. I know Planning Commission spent 4 hours on it, it seemed like, and I don't, more questions are still coming up. This is a big decision. I mean, it's one of the biggest ones we've had in the last 2 years that I've been here. And I would like, hopefully, if we send it back to planning commission, they could maybe come up with some more ideas of what we've heard, more people are gonna get involved. And also that gives city council, the new city councilman, actually just sit down with you, maybe one-on-one, and you can really break it down for everybody. It's kind of hard up here to really break it down. I mean, I hate to say it, you could spend an hour, 2, 3 hours on it. But just to really break it down for them so they can get an understanding, because I mean, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've kind of got my ideas on what I would like to see, but I hate to dump it all on BZA and put the pressure on them to have to make a decision. And just like the mayor said, put something on us after talking to some people in council.
All right, well, you've heard the motion, which, Mr. Kellner, if it's deferred to planning commission, would this go on the February agenda? I think it would, wouldn't it?
I would have to look to see if we can advertise it in time.
Okay.
We still have so many days we have to advertise, and I'm not sure it'll be close, but that we'll put it on the next available one for sure.
Okay.
I hate to excuse me, Mayor, I'm not wanting to kick it down the street, but it's a good decision. I mean, it's just a tough decision to make, and it's affecting a lot of things. So if it has to go 2 more months, it goes 2 more months. If it goes another month, it's another month. We want to try to get it the best we can.
All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Mr. Keltner. Any other discussion on the motion to defer to the next available planning commission meeting? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, the item is deferred to the planning commission. Next item, 10.2, first consideration on ordinance 4537, an ordinance amending development services filing fee schedule for the city of Columbia.
Mayor, these next two ordinances are in conjunction with the first ordinance you just sent back to the planning commission, so probably it'd be best for them just to defer, not take any action you think on these ordinances.
Well, they're all together.
Yes, they're all
They're all included.
Yeah, this next one has to do with the fee schedule regarding the short-term rentals and the other ones.
I'm afraid so, yes, sir. The definitions of the one I thought may not be that big a deal, but it breaks out home occupations into minor and major, and that's a part of that Article 4. The fee schedule, it's going to add a fee in there that we're not going to have applications for. So, I mean, that's one, if you wanted just to clear your docket some, that would be one I would think would be safe, since there's no going to be any applications coming in for that one, but particular use because it's not allowed yet. But the definitions does create a little bit of pause for me, even though it is just a definition. It is setting up, predetermining that home occupations be minor and major, and we haven't approved that yet.
Yeah, I think probably just to be consistent, we'll just go ahead and defer all three back. So item 10.2, I'll make a motion to defer to the planning commission for the next regularly scheduled or available commission meeting.
Second.
Been seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer 10.2? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is deferred. Next item, 10.3, first consideration on ordinance 4538, an ordinance amending 4400, the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia regarding definitions in Article 9 by repealing such article and replacing with Article 9 with the new Article 9 definitions, and I'll make a motion to defer this to the next available planning commission meeting.
Second.
It's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is deferred. Next and final item under section 10.4, first consideration of ordinance 4539, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4504, the classification and compensation plan for the employees of the city of Columbia for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Ms. Hardison?
Aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Seacrest?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom?
Aye.
Mayor Mulder?
Aye, that item is approved. Next section, other business. Any member of council wish to be heard? I'll say a couple things. First of all, Councilmember Huffman, Councilmember Seacrest, welcome to your first meeting. Congratulations, you made it through. We're glad to have you up here. It's an honor to serve with the two of you, and I look forward to serving with you in the years ahead. Appreciate you offering yourself up to the service for the city of Columbia. and looking forward to what we can accomplish together. Looking forward to a good strategic planning session soon to come, and for what we'll be able to accomplish. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to Brian McKelvey for his appointment this evening, and looking forward to you joining us on the stage next month after your swearing in. Also, again, would like to say thank you to Jeff Dwyer's team and department for what they're going to be doing over the next 48 hours or so. Hopefully, I noticed he said he was glad to see that there's been some snow that's been called off, although my kids were complaining that their streets had been prepped this morning already. So we might make some kids upset with those public works trucks going around the roads, but we do appreciate them keeping us safe, and of course all of our first responders. I should also point out that today is National Law Enforcement Day, and we are grateful for our law enforcement every day, but especially on this day, the National Law Enforcement Day, we're especially grateful. So Chief, thank you to you and your team for your good work as always. I'll let the city manager have the last word.
Well, Mayor, just to follow up to your comments, in the Rotary program today, recognized Law Enforcement Day, having the department there for the program.
Very good. All right. Also, I didn't mention our new city attorney, and we're glad to have him on board as well, Jay Cubble. You've survived your first council meeting, and here's to many, many more. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved. Has it been moved? Was that a motion? That was a motion. I'll second it. So it's been moved and seconded. We'll take the vote.
Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Huffman? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Seacrest? Aye. Vice Mayor McBroom? Aye. Mayor Mulber?
Aye. We are adjourned.